All right, here we go. So this is Ray Lutz, Citizens Oversight. We have an emergency meeting regarding the Florida primary, which is coming up on this coming Tuesday. And let's see, Margaret, you're down in Florida. You've done a lot of work to coordinate. Maybe you can tell us what you've discovered recently. You did a couple of good discoveries there. What have you found? Go ahead.
Well, what I found that's very interesting is that there's a lot of transparency, it seems, in Florida, and that what was going to be the snapshot file seems to be something that's made available automatically to the public. And I'm not sure about the timing of that, but I've found some files for previous elections, and the notes seem to indicate that the file will be there after the elections close on Tuesday night. It contains information for all districts, for all precincts within the districts, and for all races. So that's a good thing. And then the other thing that I found is that there is easy access to audit information as well. We've been able to retrieve information for dates and times of when the random selection will be, which seems to be open to the public, and also when the actual audits will begin for the different districts. So that's information that kind of gives us a good start.
Right. You did a good job. Now, was that something that you had to compile, those dates of the different districts?
I went out to the different, yes, I went out to all the supervisor of election sites and found all the information that was available. And there's about 3 counties that were still lacking for the 15 counties that were the top 15 counties. But I can probably make phone calls tomorrow to get that information.
Okay, because I was trying to find it and bring it up here. You sent it to me. Let's see, election data. That was the first one.
It's called canvassing schedule.
Canvassing schedule. Here's canvassing schedule. Okay, yeah. So canvassing schedule. Hopefully that'll just open. This was really good. So the big question in my mind is, so you've gone to the polls before, is that right, Margaret, and voted?
Yes, and I also am scheduled to be a poll worker. So I've been through the poll worker training.
Okay, so what kind of voting do they do there? Is it on machines? Is it ballots? What is it?
As you check in, they check the voters in, at least in my county, and it's different in every county, but I believe all counties use paper ballots, and then they're fed into something like an Accutron. But in my county, the actual voter registration is done through a tablet. So that's online.
You mean
not really
the voter registration or the voting?
The voter check-in.
Oh, the check-in. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's a good idea. That's the one thing. That's the one area they should computerize that, because there's no real danger in computerizing the check-in process. Not as much as the balloting, process. So then, how do you fill out a paper ballot, or do you use a touchscreen machine or something?
The only people who use touchscreen machines are people who need them for disabilities. Mm-hmm. Everyone else gets a paper ballot.
Well, that's pretty good. So they're using the paper ballot and they're scanning it at the precinct, and then is that information then relayed to the central office?
That's where I'm not sure. I think at the end of the day, there is an upload of information, so I guess that does go to the central office.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I can't seem to open this file. Oh, here's why. I was trying to recover something. I want to try to show everybody that. Okay, so get done with this. stuck in computer lockout mode here. Trying to just open this file, see if it works this time.
What you're opening right now is what
Yeah.
I just sent you tonight, and it's not the original spreadsheet that I sent you. This is one that's actually on a calendar basis, but it will do.
Okay. The one you sent me was a little table. That's not it. Hopefully this is going to be it. Oh, this is trying to open stuff I was trying to open about 10 minutes ago. Well, this will be good to oh boy, look, it's reopening everything because it's been, I tried and tried, I couldn't get it to open. Now finally it's doing it. Okay, well, we can get to the Florida statutes in a minute. Let's see how many how many.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so let me get rid of some of the canvassing schedule. Well, while we're on this, let's take a look at this canvassing schedule. Is this this is kind of like the one that I remember from before. Oh no, I see. You just got it in. Well, that's good. That puts it out in a good format. So here we see on the 30th, on Tuesday, is the Florida primary. Let me shrink the rest of these. Okay, so we got the Florida primary here, and then RSP, random selection process. And they've got a time for it, so that means it's a public meeting then? We can witness that?
I assume so.
Okay.
It says it's open to the public, and I assume that's true in all counties.
Okay, good. So, so what we need to do is try to get some people to go in and maybe video record what happens so everyone knows. Okay, so that's, they have the primary, and then apparently everything's counted right away because they are scanning these as they go in the precincts, and they have a lot of early voting in Florida.
Right.
Now, do they publish the results of the early voting, or they just keep it secret until the end?
They do not publish all they publish is the number of ballots that have been received, and they separate it out by early ballots,
Right.
mail-in, early voting, mail-in, election day, and
by party and so forth, right?
Right.
Okay. Now the Debbie Wasserman Schultz race, which counties does that encompass?
That's a little tricky because they've redistricted that, and part of it seems to be, and if anybody else knows better than I do, this is what I've been able to gather, is that most of it seems to be in Miami-Dade, but there's also a little bit that's in Broward County.
And Broward, okay, those are right next to each other. So I see that's on the 8th and 9th, so we have a little bit of time to get people activated to try to see those. The problem there then is that they only have to do one separation of ballots, SOB. So,
there's only one that's listed that separately, yeah, Orange County.
I wonder what that means.
Well, I was looking at the process that they go through, and they actually separate by different kinds of ballots. They separate by race. They separate by precincts, and so that's probably what they're doing that day.
Okay, here's the Florida statutes. thing that you sent to me. Let's take a look here. In Florida, a manual audit shall consist of a manual tally of votes cast in one randomly selected race that appears on the ballot. The tally sheet shall include the election day, vote by mail, early voting, provisional, and overseas ballots in at least one precinct, but no more than 2% of the precincts chosen at random. I wonder if any of these do more than one. They're not required to, so maybe they just do one precinct.
It's percent, so it could be more than one precinct.
Oh, wait, at least one randomly race in at least 1% of the, oh, I see, in at least 1% of the precincts. Well, that's better than I thought. I thought it was only one precinct.
It does turn out to be just one in some cases.
Oh, okay. Because basically, if it's one randomly selected race, could be a very small race with which only covers a few. But this is county by county, so you're not going to get the same one chosen in each county. Therefore, then there's another option here, which is an automated audit, is a public automated tally. So let's see, is it back here is a public manual tally, so they're going to do it in the public. The county canvassing board or the local board shall conduct a manual audit in randomly selected precincts. It doesn't say the precincts have to be randomly selected in a public process. Okay.
No, but the notices that they've been putting out
Does look like that's what they're doing.
Mostly indicate that it's open to the public.
Okay, so we really, I'm very, very interested to find out exactly what they're doing. And so that's better than I thought, because it's one race, but they have to do two, at least 1% of the precincts. In a big county like Miami-Dade, they're going to have quite a few precincts. So they're going to have quite a number of them, but only one race. And it could be a small race that doesn't include too many precincts, even in a county that has a lot of them. If they have a race that's only a school board or something, and it's only in one little isolated area. That's pretty ridiculous. So if it's automated, it's public again, and it has to do, this is better, the votes cast across every race, and at least 20% of the precincts. See, this is, so the automated audit is better in that respect. The question is it a third party? If it's them doing it again, then you still can't trust the thing that they do.
Oh, honey. I'm going to try Tuesday.
Okay, so is someone else want to speak up?
Okay. Yeah, I filed a lawsuit.
John, is that? I hear John talking. I can't hear you very well though. Go on, John Breakney. John Breakney.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
No, I decided to unmute everybody. Would you like to go ahead and mute your phone? Let me.
Well, if you want me to, I can. I'm working with Susan Pinshaw in Florida, and I sent her stuff over for a records request. I'm going to see if she can send me a copy of the records request with the Florida records request law, and then I'll send that to you, Ray. And then that way you can disperse it, because she's been in election integrity over there for 12 years. She was in the movie Hacking Democracy. She was a lady who said that we live in a country that makes believe that we're another country.
Right. Okay. So, what was the name of that group, John?
Her group is Well, I have to look it up. I just, Susan Pinshaw and,
Susan Pinshaw.
Pinshaw. Yeah, I give you her exact spelling. I'll look it up right now.
Well, I'm just doing it phonetically. Pinshaw, I don't know. Okay. So Election Integrity Group now for 12 years.
It's, Susan Pinshaw, and it's spelled P-Y-N-C-H-O-N. If you Google it, you'll find her.
P-Y-N-C-H-O-N.
O-N.
Pinshaw. Okay, I had it way off.
I probably pronounced it wrong, too. But,
And-
you know, more than 75% of the ballots cast in Florida will be digital images.
Oh, that's yeah, because this maps into what you've been doing in Pima County.
Yes, absolutely. Very important.
75% of the districts in Florida.
Well, 75% of the vote. It's probably half the counties, but the voting areas, just like in California, you know, you're larger, like you said, you got 3 or 4 counties, which are 50% of the California
Right.
state, right? Yeah, same thing in Florida.
Okay.
But a dozen or so would make that.
Well, that actually the digital images is a really good thing because it actually allows us to potentially audit the entire election if we wanted to, because once they've scanned the ballots, that's the hard part. If we can get the ballot images, it's easy to run those across some other piece of software and count everything up. And so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
So this is why I love that idea.
The serial number on each one of them, that's how we're going to use them, is that once we get the images, we only have 5 days to verify. Our election is next Tuesday, too. And once we get the images are encrypted with the number that is put on the ballot. Because you wouldn't trust these images unless you could go back to the originals and randomly use a scientific method to verify them.
Okay, I didn't realize that all these were having them on Tuesday because, and here in California, we lump our primary together with the presidential, preference race, and it's a good thing because it gets a lot of people interested in the primary races. Otherwise, who cares about those, and then they usually go over to, it tends to be if people don't vote, it goes over and swings over to the right, it doesn't get a good basis for everybody. Okay, now, so
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do they do with the original ballots after they're scanned?
Okay, so this is Isaiah Mendoza. They have to keep the original ballots for 22 months after each election by law, and we're trying to get also the digital images to be maintained as well, so we have access to those.
We want released because they are a public record.
Yeah, at least.
Especially in Florida, ballots are a public record in Florida. These images are, each of them are unique, and they're not any way of identifying who they came from. And they're in the chain of custody of the process, and they should be able to be released. In fact, there's talk eventually that these images will be put online by the election department. People can go ahead and download and check and do what they want randomly on them, and then they can come in and verify.
Okay, the verification process, how accessible the paper ballots as compared to the image?
It'd be state to state, but in Arizona, we don't have to pass a law. In Arizona, once I have the image and it's encrypted and they're packed away by serial number, I could go in and say, okay, I want to inspect this ballot and that ballot and use a scientific method to pick to make sure that they're all real.
Okay.
Okay, but in general, though, Isaiah, that's a good question, and I don't think it's settled in all these different states how accessible these digital images are. I guess, John, it's a good question for you since you brought up the point that they're going to be available in Florida. What do you know anything about the accessibility of the images there?
All I know is that I know that they're a public record because in the year 2000, in the Bush-Gore election, That's how they knew that Gore really won the election, is because the media got together and got access to the ballots because they had a public records request. And they had the money and the people to do what they did. It took them a long time.
Well, that's the problem with the ballots. The ballots are, yeah, you can go in with a court order, or you can get access to the ballots under certain provisions, or some places here, I know here, you have to pay them to do it. You have to pay them to recount. You can't just do it yourself.
Well, with ballot images, you should be able to.
That's the point, is the ballot image is not a ballot, and you can't, it's not something you're going to be changing. It's just you're going to be able to look at it. So,
Right.
So therefore, they've eliminated the danger of, like, if you're in the room with the ballots, they're worried, are you going to be changing them? Well,
Right.
this way, the images can be disseminated all over the place, and everybody can take a look at the full set of ballots. That's what I've been pushing for with that open canvas proposal. But let's see. But you're saying they're probably a public record in Florida.
Yes.
But we'll really have to see. Until somebody actually gets them and tries to get at them, I guess, you're not going to really test their laws on that until you try to do that.
Wouldn't,
One thing about pre-doing what I'm doing in Arizona, I'm filing in more counties tomorrow because my philosophy is very simple. I want to take away their impunity to cheat, and I know how to do that, make them paranoid, because these people who do these things, they only steal if they have impunity.
Right, yeah. That's why, these audits are pretty minuscule in Florida. However, it sounds like they at least have, well, we'll have to see. We really want to, I just am curious, so far I'm sort of pleasantly surprised that they're doing 1% of the precincts for wherever the race is offered. It may not be offered in all the precincts. I mean, some of the races here, like San Diego County, for example, I know if you pick a random race, it might be for a water board in a district with only one or two precincts. It's not going to be a very interesting situation. Now in Arizona, don't they they're required to pick one of the big races, aren't they, John?
Absolutely. In a presidential, you have to pick a presidential, a senatorial, a House race, and then they only do state races. Nothing is checked in our counties or below, which is very bad.
Okay, but at least they're not, what they're doing here is they're only checking in the counties, and they're picking one race, which could be a very insignificant race, and they're completely ignoring the big races, perhaps. It depends on what.
But, in my state, they're pretty crooked. They like to do the lottery before they commit the precinct results, because when you verify an election, you verify it by precinct. The problem in my state is 85% of the voters vote by mail, and they do not separate those up by precincts, and they do this really stupid batch of 200 ballots. If we have 400 precincts and you pull 200, what are you matching it to? Nothing.
That's right. If you're pulling out batches like that, you need a batch report to go with it to find out what it would match. So they're doing. Let's go back to this in that if 1% of the precincts is less than one precinct, you conduct one precinct chosen at random. Okay. Such precincts shall be selected at a publicly noticed canvassing board meeting. Then the question I have is, how was the race chosen? And then I think what was nice about this, John, is that apparently they do this after, look at this sentence here, immediately following the certification of the election. So they complete the election certification prior to even starting the random selection for the audit. Now, if
That means 100% of the votes are actually in, or is it like California, they do 65?
well,
Arizona does a 65 too.
I think that because what Margaret was saying is that, well, Margaret, was saying that they're using by and large paper ballots and then scanning them at the precinct and then, relaying the results up. And so then the results are tallied in their computer as they're going along, even though they're not releasing that to the public.
Well, I know from the checking I've done on verified voting, I looked at all the counties because I wanted to do the report, and a lot of your large municipalities have central count scanners, and those are where they're using the DS850s or using the ES and 650s, the M650s, or machines like that. That means they're doing vote by mail at the central office.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I can't imagine they would bring the vote by mail ballots back to the precinct and have them done there.
I can't either. I think that they're doing them, opening them and counting them there on the spot. And chances are, it'd be interesting to find out, are they separating the ballots out by precinct or counting, or are they letting the computer do that inside the computer? Because that's where the real magic happens, like magic fractioning.
Well, they say here in this part, and this is already highlighted, that the tally sheet shall include election day, vote by mail, early voting, provisional and overseas ballots.
Those categories.
The tally sheet shall include. So now, that's what's on the tally sheet. I guess that implies that's what they're going to be counting, but it doesn't explicitly say that they will count all of those and that those will all be in. But it does imply that. I mean, if it's immediately following the certification, that's different from what it is in California, where the manual tally process is something they're using to try to figure out if they can certify or not. So here then the question is, what if it doesn't match? E-certified? Do they have a way to pull it back? It looks like it doesn't really matter what they do with the manual tally. If they do the audit, then what?
If it doesn't match, they have to find what is causing the discrepancy, and if they can't, they have to write up an explanation for it.
Okay, here's true. Thank you, Margaret. That's good that because that isn't even really specified what they do if it doesn't match. Let's see, it says they will provide a report with the results of the audit to the Department of State in the standard format and the overall accuracy, description of problems, likely cause of problems, recommended corrective action. And then if they have to do a manual recount because somebody, I believe that section is if they discover some hanky-panky by poll workers or something and they want to go in, then they don't have to do it because they're going to be doing it anyway. But this particular set of this particular provision here, 101-591, doesn't seem to include just report the results of the audit, description of problems or discrepancies, cause of the problem, recommended corrective action. Okay, well, I guess so in my mind, is there anything that I'm missing here is what I'm really asking. It seems like we've got the random selection done after the election. We've got the certified results, which should be available to us, which in these other cases was what we called the snapshot file because it was unofficial results and incomplete. You're going to be able to have the full results in theory. And then random selection, both of the race and the precincts involved. An issue would be how do they, because they're doing that afterwards, and the results are public, then there's no way that you can go back in and hack the computer results without actually changing the physical ballots as well for those precincts that were selected if you happen to be caught. So there's a lot of ifs there because they're narrowing this down so finely. Let's assume somebody did hack the election. Let's say that they can't control all this stuff, so they could be caught, and then the precinct and the race that they hacked is chosen. Now they have to cover their tracks. So then what they could do is they could actually go in and pre-count the ballots that are included in that precinct that's being counted and make sure that it matches whatever their hacking was that they did. So the thing that we'll have to look at is how are these ballots handled before they go into the audit.
I would say a key thing, Ray,
What's that?
is that it's very important to know that if they really did commit the results by precinct completely, okay? If they try to give you one number and they have 3 or 4 categories, okay? You know, you got your early voting, like in California, you got your precinct vote, then you got your vote by mail afterwards, and then you got your provisionals, and they don't give you the numbers properly, you could manipulate because you haven't counted all the votes yet. You see what I'm saying?
That's true if indeed they, it's true that they haven't counted the votes yet. It seems to be a little bit hard to believe based on that. Let me see if I can go back to the schedule. Okay, this is the other version of the schedule.
Our law says the same thing in Arizona, you know, you must commit the results first, but try to find them before they do the lottery.
Oh, that's
They'll
the
give
problem.
you a district, or they'll give you a crude thing. And secondly, you know they're not going to be counted because provisionals are always counted last, okay? And that's where, you have to have it locked down completely in the categories. And those categories, like in California, your provisionals don't have a separate category, do they?
No, they don't. They're lumped into the polls ballots, and you have to. The only way you can get those is to do what I was doing, is to get the snapshot file and subtract it from the final results.
Right.
More or less gives you what the provisionals were,
But it doesn't give you an exact, because I went through the same thing looking at that.
no, it doesn't, because there's also those ones that I was talking about today with you on the phone, John. The ones that are pulled for quality control, they call it.
Yeah.
The 4% loss.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We don't have that problem here, at least.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I have in my mind. You have 9. Here's the audit selection, Marion County, on the day is that the day after? See, it's
Second day after.
See, so they've chosen. How can the audit selection be so fast? Are the election results already certified at that point? That would mean,
in every case that I've seen, the election results have to be certified before the audit selection takes place. That day in between the election and the actual audit selection is when they count the provisionals.
and all of the vote by mails have to be in by election day?
They have to be in before election day.
Okay, because here it has to be postmarked, and then there's 3 days, and then if they didn't sign it, they got another 8 days.
Postmarks don't count here.
Arizona, they do. Yeah.
Postmarks don't count. Oh, I see. So they have to be
Arizona,
in.
we do count, yeah.
So here, though, you're saying they have to be in by election day. They have to be received. Therefore, they could count them at this point in time. So in theory, they could have everything counted and have the final and have the results. Now, you showed me the results. We went to, and I can probably redo this here so you can kind of see what we're looking at. I guess let me pull up a browser. And we went over to Citrus County. Probably have to do it again. And they had, but it was fairly easy to get to the results.
VoteCitrus.org.
Go to Citrus.
VoteCitrus.com.
Yeah, I guess I better do that because there's several. .org.
Vote Citrus. It's VOTE Citrus.
Okay.
And it's .com.
Okay. So now we did this.
Take a look at the live turnout preview, and that will, or the live turnout view primary.
Okay.
That's actually that's actual counts as of today. But of course, those aren't the actual results. They're just the counts of ballots.
Okay. So this is what we were talking about. That here we have a summary of mail ballots in Citrus County, 14,272 mail ballots. Early voting, around 7,000. Election day 0, because we haven't had that yet, and 9 provisionals. And they break it down by party. You're in a very heavily Republican district, it looks like. Percentage mail, that's a pretty high number for mail. But of course, that's going to go down as you have election day results. And then by the date when they came in on the date, and by precinct. So we have how many came in. That isn't the actual results, but if we go back on this site, we did take a look, and there is a well, there was this post-election audit we took a look at for the presidential. I don't remember seeing this one. I think it was another race. The presidential preference election. Here we come, and it's loading. So here is the problem. Instead of looking at the presidential race, we look at the CR Council Seat 1. What is CR?
Crystal River, it's a city.
Okay. Crystal River, a city no one's heard of unless you live in Citrus County. And then there's these 2 people running, and we have just a few hundred votes which match. No date on this, I noticed. No signature saying that it's valid.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a beginnerish document. And unfortunately, not the presidential race, which is the one that everybody's interested in seeing audited. So that's sad. But that's what I remember seeing. Now, there was another thing that we saw here, which was the not the audit, but I guess I need to go back.
Historical result, and that'll give you an idea of what the file.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. That's what we were looking at. So primary results. No, that's
down to presidential primary, presidential preference. Yeah, that
here's
one.
a final.
Look at the following results.
Want to look at that? Okay.
No. Yeah, that one's fine. Yeah.
These are the current. Well, these are not going to come up to anything because they're not going to show it until election day, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's not going to be interesting. Let's go down here and look at this is the precinct results from the presidential primary. That's turnout. Okay, here we go. So here is, let's make this bigger. I don't know what those names are. Oh, let's see. That's the. I see. You've got to go over here. So here is the Republican presidential race for a given precinct, which is called, they call it red level, that must be an area. And here's how many registered voters they have. Here's how many people voted at the polls. And then Jeb Bush got 1 vote. Ben Carson got 4 votes, this sort of thing. Chris Christie, how can that be? Nobody voted for this? Am I reading this right? Why is total vote?
Scroll back over to the left. You may have to go to a different precinct to see anything significant.
Well, it's interesting that they have, usually, here's the number of registered voters, here's the number of ballots that came in. And then you would think they would at least vote for, well, maybe they're all Democratic ballots, I guess. I don't know. Usually, if they separate it out, let's go down and see if we see any big numbers here.
Well, you haven't seen Trump either.
Why isn't he on here?
Maybe he's on a second page.
Yeah. Oh, that's why. Probably they're voting for Trump. Well, that makes it hard. Okay, here we go. Oh,
There we go.
here we go. It's because they had so many candidates, that's why. So here's Kari Fiorina. She's not going to get any votes either. Mike Huckabee. All right, so we've got to go down a few pages. All right, here we go. Rand Paul, Marco Rubio. He should be doing well. Donald J. Trump. I get it. Okay. So you got to go page to page to page. These are continuing lines. We're still on red level. And here's continuing all the candidates. Yeah, it would be a lot better to get this in a big spreadsheet type of format where the columns can go on a lot further.
Right. It might be a good thing to show if you go out to the big file that's at the Florida Department of State.
Yeah. Oh, that's the one, is the big file with like a CSV format or something. That's the one we want to get at. I thought there was one, it was a PDF. But anyway, the point is that this, I'll tell you what we want to look at here. Let's go back to that one. And here's the March 16th, 2016 election. And this is the, is it just Citrus County? I can't remember where we are now.
Citrus.
Oh, just Citrus. Okay, but here's what I think is the problem here, 3/25/16. The election was on March 15th. We didn't get this report until March 25th.
That's the final certification.
Right, but they said that the audit happens after the certification. You mean there's a preliminary certification?
I don't know.
See, that's the thing. That's what we don't know. And this is what John was just bringing up. The results that they have published, we still need to get that. And it still seems like it's we'll continue to call it the snapshot file just because we need to get the precinct by precinct results, which is pretty much what we just saw. It'd be better if it was in a file format that we can crunch on a little better, even though we can extract it from that. Not too much effort. But it would be a lot easier if we didn't have to do any extraction. And then seeing when that comes out, because if it's a 10-day difference between those certified results. See, we're here at the Citrus County, election. The election results. This is just for Citrus County. Those numbers are way too small to be for anything other than that. The final precinct results, no, that's 2014. The final precinct results were on something like March 25th, 10 days later. And then if we go to the audits, let's see when they had the audit.
No date.
No date. That didn't help us. I guess you could ask them, you know, that would be information that they should have. You could just ask them the question, when did they do the manual selection or the random selection last time? Did it happen after the final certification? That would be 10 days later. I couldn't believe that, because you've already taken a look at the dates that you provided here. And Citrus has, here's a Florida primary. I'm looking at Citrus /audit, 8:30 a.m. Now, did I miss something? When did Citrus do their random selection procedure? Do you know that, Margaret?
I'm looking. I have a previous notice of their, let's see. The post-election audit, March 28th.
March 28th in the previous.
Now that's the actual audit. That's not the selection. They don't.
Okay, but that, okay, so we're going back to the previous, the presidential preference primary.
Yeah, the final certification begins March 25th, and the post-election audit begins March 28th. So that actually works out.
That does match then, doesn't it? What they say
Yeah.
they're supposed to do. Now, looking at this upcoming audit, did Citrus County publish, I guess we could take a look on their website, post-election audit, well, it would be, there's nothing there. I can't click on it.
You're looking for the announcement?
Let's see, calendar of events.
No, it's actually in
Elections.
meeting notices, maybe.
Oh boy, I got to the wrong thing here. Let's see.
Oh, but that was the Department of the State. Can you go back there?
Yeah, it's this one. It was this. I'll open it in a new tab. Yeah,
Data and statistics.
What are you thinking of?
Data and statistics,
Okay.
and the elections data.
Results
Precinct
are.
level election results.
Okay, yeah, this is the thing that we looked at, and I already have it downloaded, and it's already loaded into this here, and I'm taking a look at Broward County just so we can see this. And the columns are typically like this, where a lot of things are the same, but you can see that the candidate. So this is like one precinct. Here, this looks like a sequence number. Here's sequence number 2. And then these other numbers are probably referencing which precinct, other precinct number, and then the type of race that it is. And down here is usually, this looks like the race, 1001, because here's the Democratic race. And it goes on and on. So this is what, it's easier for machines to digest this type of report, but it's harder for people to look at it because it's just so repetitive. And we're down here, just to get an idea, here's 11,540 lines. And so it's something that usually this type of thing doesn't load into a spreadsheet very well. Even though sometimes something like this might be small enough to load in, it doesn't have that many columns. But the problem is it's sort of hard to add them up because it's, okay, how do you get you have to then search for all the Jeb Bushes and then add up the number there for, the votes for the Jeb Bushes, which is probably that number, 3. Here's Hillary Clinton, 296, Bernie Sanders, 160, Trump, 551. Trump is really well liked in that county. Now, at least in that precinct. So this is what we can get, and we looked at it, and we looked at it for every. When you unzip their file, you get every single county. So the question will be, and that will be a good thing to try to get, is if we can get that result there prior to any of the audits, just so we have it in our hands and feel comfortable, then we know nothing's changing. Because that does match what you said was that in the schedule here, in the previous one, they didn't get the audit done well, the certified election results weren't done until 10 days later. Somehow here we're getting in a much more complex election. We're getting the certified results in only 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 business days instead of 10. I don't know, maybe it's possible. We'll have to really take a look at it. I think that's where we are at this point, is that we're at the beginning of the learning curve, at least I am, in terms of what happens in Florida. And it's going to be, it's in some ways good how they're doing it. Some ways it's good, and that they're getting, in theory, all the election results ahead of time. It's not that good in that they're only choosing one race, even though they're getting 1% of the precincts for that one race. Key thing now will be to try to get that information that we're lacking, which it sounds like just how are they executing this, and as John said, making sure that that file is frozen before they do the audit.
I don't know if can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important that they have to commit, because if they don't, it's easier with fraction magic to de-rig an election than to rig. Meaning all you do is you go in to the program and you eliminate the percentage that you want, and it reverts to the total of the true vote. You follow me?
Yeah.
So
I understand.
I just walk in.
Yeah,
here's the result.
one change, and everything will revert back to the way it was. Yeah, that's an important point, in that you don't have to carefully select the precincts or anything, even though I think that from the looks of some of these elections that I've taken a look at, I think they're using an equation that says that they want to have the vote pushed toward a certain percentage.
Yes.
And so then they will move the votes according to that desire. And
exactly. It's a refraction. And so they could say you want 51.000000 that you will never throw a vote over. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
That if you have 8,000, use 51%, you're going to have a fraction. They eliminate that. And it's pretty incredible how easy it's to do. It's shocking, because I've done it.
Yeah, there's actually testimony.
Okay, this is Isaiah Mendoza. I just want everybody to know who it is. I can see it. I just want to make sure everybody who's on the phone knows who you are. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I don't have a video on hand, but there's testimony from someone who worked within the elections saying exactly that, that he designed an algorithm or a program, I believe, to make the percentages look like 51-49.
Right,
That's
yeah.
great.
So that's a good point, and I think that reflects back on what we were just commenting on in terms of how you might hack an election. In terms of providing oversight, I don't know if you see this chat, but Mike Fox from PDA says that he's running a national phone bank for Tim Canova and Alan Grayson right now and needs to hop off. If someone will get me the schedule, he says he'll hit up our 5,000 members in Florida and about the same in Arizona to get them to show up at the canvassing meetings if needed. Okay, so this is going to be a great resource. That's exactly what we were missing, is boots on the ground in Florida and Arizona to actually, I think mostly, well, you have people in Arizona, right, John, doing a pretty good job of providing oversight at these.
We could always use more, and you know, my focus is always on the central tabulators,
Right.
and I try to get people to close their own precincts.
Oh, close your own precinct.
Yeah, be there, close, witness to closing, get the results, we can match up.
Oh, that's a good idea. Go and not necessarily be a poll worker, but to close your own precinct. And then because there is, in our review of the precinct information here, many of the precinct rosters are out of whack. Most of them, about 85% of them don't add up. And I mean, I don't want to put the pressure on, you know, undue pressure on precinct workers, because I know they're working hard. But, and, you know, generally I'm not suspecting any hanky-panky by the precinct. I think it's just that they're tired. They can't get it done right. Now, so what we'll do is make this information available, and I think you're doing a great job here, Margaret, of specifying when each of these things are taking place. So what I think that's great. We'll hit up Mike Fox at PDA America with a specific request for them to go to these public meetings and witness what's going on, and hopefully report back anything anomalies that they see, both at the random selection procedure and during the audit, which if it's only one race, it's not going to take too long. So probably easy to watch the whole thing. So that I believe, and of course the other things of the issue is making sure that the results are certified and that we have the file. Okay, so I think that covers it. Does anybody else want to make a comment? It's open channel, so go ahead and just speak up if you do.
Yeah, is there anything I can do from Oregon? I took a look at the map. I noticed that Oregon's not a priority state.
Well, it's not a priority state, but there are areas in Oregon which are going to be, if we take a look at the overall, probably not going to be able to very easily find it here in all of my crap, but there is the registration by county. We had that one table. I know where I can find it. Well, anyway, there are districts within Oregon which are important. How do I get to that? I go to the Cops Wiki website and go directly to main page, and then I go to the procedures document, which is recently updated. Procedures, and we have the state targeting procedure. What you want to do within your state, Isaiah, is do the state district targeting procedure, because even though your state is not a priority on itself, as you look down within the districts here, you see it's basically the Portland area. If you look at this map here, the Portland and, you know, Vancouver, Washington, I guess it is area, that little area right there is in the top 175. So it
Okay.
is a targeted area. It's not state-wise because sometimes you don't get it, like in Nevada. Nevada's not a top state, but certainly Las Vegas is a targeted, you know, Clark County is a targeted area. And so this national ranking table, which I can pull up here and you can kind of see it. We'll go down and see where Oregon is. Now, is your election on Tuesday? Your primary?
I would have to check.
Okay. Yeah, because it takes a little bit of prep work to be ready. What is it doing here? I don't want to. Okay, well I'll just go ahead and do this. Save it to the desktop. I have it somewhere on my system. I just can't find it off quickly while we're on the phone. But I just want to show you that we actually have taken a look at all of the counties sorted by county and how big they are. Okay, and stop. Get my system to stop doing that. I want to go to this one. It'll be this colorful file because what I did was I tried to put a color, sort of a different color for each state. Here it is. This is desktop. Okay. There it is. For some reason it wouldn't open it up directly. And now Margaret has gone in and taken a look at Florida, and you can do the same thing for Oregon. You can take a look at the top, you know, you look at the top 20% of the voters and where they are, and they're probably going to be in this area. It's not opening. Hate to take everybody's time on this, my fooling around, but it is. That's how you get to it when it finally gets open. Here it is. All right, so what we can do is just search for, it's going to find everything else. How about Portland? Here's Oregon. So the top area is going to be number 74 in priority state nationally. So it's not really insignificant. It's more important than San Francisco. So feel good about that. And then, as I didn't colorize the rest of those for Oregon, but here's Washington County is near Portland. So they're all in the same area. There's a number of counties right there. Do you live near Portland?
I believe I'm in Multnomah County.
Which one?
Multnomah County, the one you
oh, okay, so you're in the main,
we're very
the
close
top
to
county.
it, at least.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So what? So there's yeah, you're in one of our top districts, and you're in the upper half of the districts that we've targeted, 175, and you're number 75. So you're not insignificant at all, even though by state, Oregon is not a targeted state. And that's why we went ahead and said, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to do it state by state, because there's a lot of districts within those states that are important.
Okay, and
go ahead.
For those of us who are new, such as me, is there a landing page or a site that I can go to figure out what the process is for taking part in this?
Yeah, I'll tell you, just so everybody knows, I've been setting up, it's on, the main site we're using is copswiki.org, and there is a thing I'm going to be setting up, which is these election oversight procedures, where we're going to be putting in filling in these other procedures. Even though we've done them, we're trying to make them more generic so that they will apply to other areas. Pretty much, you can just go ahead and start looking at your home district, and there is, I'll tell you what I can do is I will send out, the best thing to do is to get an overview with some of our tutorial videos, and that way I try to cover the concept of how we're planning to do this. We have, let's see here, I've got so many things going is the reason that I can't find out everything I want to. But the snapshot protocol, the snapshot oversight and the snapshot protocol is the main driving force behind this, and it amounts to choosing or getting the election data before they do their audit, and then watching the audit very, very carefully. We've been going over some of the things in Florida. So your first step is to find out when your next election is, and it turns out a lot of states like Arizona and Florida are happening right now. But I'll tell you what, Isaiah, what I can do for you is in a separate, a little bit of a prep, so I'll have it because I can't do it on the fly, and I'll send it out on the list so everybody has it. Here's the steps that you should go to bring yourself up to speed. I've already done it. I just can't think of it right now where to go right away, because okay, unfortunately we do have I'll tell you this, on the very front page of our website, just click up here and get to it. It's the common web. Here's election team, election web home, and here's the organizing page for this. Here's the procedures I was just talking about. Here's the recent emails. If you go through these recent emails, I need to add the most recent one here. And also these tutorials. So there is, if you look at the things that have a little, these are videos when they have that little film strip next to it. And so then we had the conference calls, and a lot of that was overview material. And I also have up here these meetings. This snapshot overview, this is the election team. The other main page is called election integrity, and that's the major project. This is a sub-project of it. And election integrity has background and strategies for doing it, but also has these articles in media of recent things. But I do think is a valid point is that things sometimes get lost in here, and so I'm in the process of trying to reorganize, because we've only recently realized that we were having such good success, and as we're looking at the rest of the country and seeing what a mess it was, that the success story that we had here with actually finding out how they were not doing the audit completely could be replicated in other areas, at least to the extent where you want to actually watch that audit very carefully. It's our tool for making sure the elections are done right. Now in Oregon, you're doing all vote by mail, isn't that right?
I would have to confirm that. I don't have access to that information right now.
Okay, well, check it out. It sounds like you're on the kind of, sort of a newcomer to the area, but I'm pretty sure that Oregon has adopted an all vote by mail policy up there. They don't have any polling places at all.
What I do know is that when I voted for the presidential candidate and congressional or mayor, and yeah, when I voted for them, it was a in-mail process.
Okay, so it was a mail process. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we're a little bit past when I wanted to conclude the meeting.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, who's that?
Hello? Oh, this is Dorothy. I just had a real short thing I wanted to
Oh,
say
no,
to the.
no, go right ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make a request to the Florida people and the Arizona people. We're loading up the database with things like any requests for information, request for the snapshot, request for the tally, the snapshot, the tally, statement of vote, any kind of communications and data for an election and by election district. And Ray did a very good video tutorial on how to load it up on the COPS Wiki database. But I know that you guys are really under the gun right now. So my request to you is that you save all that stuff and everything that you get. And some of you were talking about schedules and things like that. All that stuff, just zip it up in a zip file, send it to Ray, and he'll send it to me, and I'll move that to the top of my queue and get it loaded up on our COPS Wiki database so that A, we have it for posterity, and B, you get many more eyes on it to help with the analysis.
Yeah. So that's a good point. In the copswiki.org, I made a new sub-site, if you will, called Elections, and this is where we have started building the audit database, and I'm clicking on all audits. These are the audits that have been uploaded so far from the recent election, and so from any given district. And what we can do is for these other areas like Florida and Oregon, anybody who wants to take part here, I can
in Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. I can preload all of the districts. Like this is what we did here. We got the districts all preloaded, so that then you can, if you go to a given district like Fresno, then it'll list the audit. So we went back these 4 years because the Secretary of State of California has decided not to archive all of the audits. Now, if you're lucky and you have a state that's not just sitting on their hands, then they will have the audits available. But California has sort of a policy here. Unfortunately, it seems like they're trying to just ignore the audits so much because they'd rather let them go away. But that's our goal is, and I want to compliment Dorothy for doing that.
Just to interject there, also it's very helpful any kind of where you send a request for something and you get a response back. Because sometimes that's all we have because we never get anything back. But
right,
sometimes we get something and then it's
right.
not what we asked for. But all of that history, just zip it up in a file along with the data that you do get back, different, statement of the vote, snapshot, tally data, anything you get, zip it up and send it to Ray, and then we'll load it up on that database.
Well,
and we'll have it for posterity.
The other approach, Dorothy, I don't mean to cut you off though, is that if somebody else wants to also help out here, we don't have to shoulder all the load. This website is set up to be a collaboration site so that really anybody who wants to learn how to do this can be helping upload the data from their area. It needs to happen that way too because we just have too many areas. With 175 districts, we're only covering half of the voters in the country, and it starts to go up a lot from there. So in order to get 6 to 60%, we have to go up to 300 districts, not just to get to 50%, 175. You think, okay, well, to get to 60%, I only need 17,500 more. No, you have to get another 125 districts in order to get up that next 10%. It gets more and more as you go. So we have a lot of. That's why we're targeting just the top 175 as our primary targets, but we'll do more. But each of the states, I can preload the districts in the states so that they'll be there, and then it'll be easy to select from the pull down lists and stuff that we have. Now, what I suggest that you do, Isaiah, is go and I'll send you the information so you can go to the targeting procedure, which also it gives you information about how to get you the information about your elected your officials. You need to get the contacts and address and stuff, and especially the email of each one of your districts that you have in Oregon or whichever the state is from somebody else, so that you can get start to make contact with them. And you know, with email, we have the advantage of we can say, well, we're going to contact 12 or 25 counties at a time. You can send the same request to all 25 counties. And by law, they have to respond to you if you make a records request. Sometimes the response, unfortunately, is we received your request. You know, that's about it. But, you know, we keep track of that. And if you do have an email like that, it's best to put it into a PDF file, like print it to a PDF if you can, so that we have it in a form that we can put in the archive. But
Okay.
we'll have this initial audit archive set up for California pretty soon, and then we'll be doing a bit of a media splash, if you will, on the fact that we're going after these audits. And I think when we do that, we should be able, I'm hoping that we'll even get more traction on it. But unfortunately, this current primary kind of snuck up on me. I didn't even realize it was Tuesday, and we have a whole bunch of states in a fairly important election. Okay, so that, I think, is our game plan. Let's try to get that information. I will send to this fellow, Mr. Fox, the information about how to go after, have his constituents help us. I think that's a good approach right now, is to take the information that you provided, and if we can have the information also, John, for Arizona, in terms of when we need boots on the ground in Arizona in those areas, to be observers and to give them information about what they're going to be looking for. So that, yeah. So if you can do that for Arizona, that would be another, area that we'd be covering. And then I can send this to Tim so that it wouldn't have to come this second, but we do need to have it, as we get closer to those dates, like it'd be good to have people observing the election, of course, now, but as we get, after we get the election day completed, the idea of going to your home polling place and shutting it down is a great idea.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I like that idea.
To be there 5 minutes beforehand, okay, and then they just say to the marshal, "I'm here to observe and be inside," and then they close the door. They got to be in the door, and then they can go ahead and collect the results. How many provisionals? How many ballots were cast? Republican, Democrat. Basically, what goes on the end of day report is what we want. A snapshot. You can say, gee, can I take a picture of that with my phone? See, in Arizona, when we did have precinct optical scanners, they did not post the poll tapes at the precincts. They hid them. That shows how crooked we are,
Right.
Okay. Now, are you in contact with the Cliff Arnebeck, who's handling the election fraud lawsuit?
Well, okay, so Isaiah is speaking again. We're taking a little bit different approach. Cliff Arnebeck has a lawsuit that I don't even think he's filed it yet. It's some sort of a class action lawsuit that he's proposed. And we have a different lawsuit here in San Diego with regard to the actual audit procedures that they've been violating. I think it's a stronger case. It's a more specific case than the Cliff Arnebeck case is. And you have to you know, I don't want to try to undermine what Cliff is doing. It's just different. You know, we're very much focused on a very specific, what I look at and what others that have looked at elections for a long time see as the most significant thing that we can do to make headway. And the most significant thing that we can do is to really watch the audits that they're already required to do by law.
Okay, and what about,
Yeah,
what about the vote? I noticed that there appeared to be a voter purge that occurred in Arizona, in New York, in Vegas, and in quite a few, or Nevada, quite a few other places. Have you been keeping an eye on that?
That's actually the voter purging. Yeah, that's
The registration purges.
I've seen some good reports on that. I know there's the I think of his name offhand, the reporter who did a really good view of that. Basically the voter fraud is something that's being pushed on by those generally on the right wing who are trying to eliminate voters from the rolls because their goal is to not let people vote as much as possible. And so their agenda has been...
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Oh, this is Dorothy.
Okay.
I just wanted to jump in on that voter fraud. When you hear, some people talk about voter fraud and some people talk about election fraud, and they're really two different things.
Yeah.
The voter fraud is a scam. It's being run kind of from the Republican Party. Go check out Greg Palast's latest movie that I can't remember the name of it. Just look for Greg Palast movie. And you can find out all about this thing about voter fraud, which is basically an excuse for voter suppression and to basically take people's names off the voter rolls. And you'll find out what that is.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say, I wanted to say one thing about,
go ahead.
about citizen oversight and the reason why I've been looking around for something really valuable to be involved in, and there's many people coming at the election fraud from different angles, and they should all be applauded. But the thing that really attracted me to citizen oversight is that this protocol, it kind of goes to the center point of where the vote is checked and audited, and it is a way in which that can be replicated across the country. And it's not just for one election. It means that many people are going to be organized and empowered and trained in every state in election districts in order to intelligently check for fraud in their elections. And in other words, it's not just one election. It's not just one type of thing. It's really being empowered as an ongoing effort that's going to grow and be replicated. And that's why I'm attracted to this.
Dorothy, I love you. You're the kind of person we need. We love those kind of testimonials. So I agree with that. And the Greg Palast thing that I have listened to his speech, information on that, and the right wing was purging voters via this bogus double voting methodology where they compare names, and it's just the first and last name. They don't even compare the middle name nor the social security number, and they pull them off. And there's many other scams on the front end to getting people either they're pulled off, their registration is invalidated, they were signed up for vote by mail or the other way around, and they got swapped and they didn't get their ballot, and they were made had to vote provisionally. There's all this things. So when we get the audit under intense scrutiny, so there's no way that they can cheat, then it's like squeezing a balloon. It's going to pop out in other areas, and we've got to keep looking at where they're trying to cheat and try to cover that. Right now, there's so much deficiency in just the audit that they're supposed to do, that no one is watching the audit, that we have our hands full on just watching the thing that they're required to do by law. Forget all the other shenanigans. even though we don't want to forget them. We've got to keep our eyes on those, but we also have to keep an eye on the audit, which needs to happen. Otherwise, you may as well not have a paper trail. Then you can just fix the election at will. And so that's why this is the most important aspect. So I'll tell you what, I'm way over the time when I wanted to end the call, but I think these last few comments have been extremely productive. And so I don't want to, you know, cut us off early when we're making progress. Was there something else that we wanted to cover before I ended the call?
I want to mention real quick, if you can hear me. We're here with South Florida, Sporting Team Canova. And our people are very interested on making sure there are no issues of voter suppression or election fraud in the 23rd district. The elections will be on Tuesday, August 30th, and I just want to know if there's any sort of like quick reference sheet that we can provide to people at the precincts who are going to be watching, so they'll be prepared. Just wondering.
Okay, and so your name, please, because it's not shown on the list.
All right, my name is John.
John?
Yes.
Okay. Well, make sure that have you signed up with our website at citizensoversight.org/signup?
No, I haven't.
Well, please do that, because we'd like to put you in contact with the other people. We'd like to get that information to you and your network. But that is a excellent idea. I did publish procedures for the California election and for the various districts here. It was a little bit too overwhelming for many of the people to get the full set of procedures, and so that's why I was breaking them up into separate procedures. And I have to admit, I'm a bit behind of moving what I had written before over into breaking it up, and that's what I was doing here with the you know, this list of procedures in terms of what would happen. But I like, people are now adding new aspects which I think are tremendous. I like the poll closing oversight procedure that John mentioned, and I'm going to include that here. That's a fantastic thing to do. Also, one thing that we did was we did just a review of many of the polls. We would go around to just check them out and see how they were conducting the vote. One of the things that distressed us was that many of the polling places were in the sanctuaries of churches, some of them even up on the altar. And this was where they were voting on Proposition 8, which was the gay marriage, you know, legalization. And so I can imagine that would be somewhat, you know, coercive, especially if you're a believer, you're up on the altar, you're right before the, you know, the cross, and you're trying to vote on this gay marriage Proposition 8 or marriage equality law. And of course it went down, and it was then banned for a while, and then it's been reversed. So that shows you what the sort of coercion can happen, and in time it did get corrected. But that was the thing where we could go out, we could see probably 1 or 2 dozen polling places during their voting process and see what kind of election materials they had out. Did they have voter guides? So that's the kind of another kind of a tactic. And so we're going to be listing all those. It's too, I'll have to review, well, let's go back to John is in Florida. We're going to be trying to pair you up when you sign in with other people that are working there, so that you can and be given information about what to do. And then I will be intensively preparing that, so that when we send this out to the 5,000 people on the PDA America list, then it can be disseminated, and we'll have people going out and doing something that's productive, and here's what I need to do, versus just, you know, not really knowing what to do and just looking around. So if we have the specific things designated and that people can understand what's going on, the first step that I found has been important is getting people educated a little bit more about what actually happens in these you know, in the whole process of processing the elections. All right, so that was good. We got the person, John, who's going to be signing up from Florida. Any more last minute comments? Okay, hearing none. It's been about an hour and a half, so I think it's time to close the meeting. Thank you very, very much for coming. I'm going to be working hard to get this stuff together, and then hopefully we can get it disseminated and we can make something happen for this election. Peace. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.